union, and 3 represents creativity. 1 and 3 equals 4 equals foundation to create a matriarchal civilization. So I would say that the blueprint on how to build, civilizations came from the nature of bees or the nature of insects and things of that nature. Because they understood the building process. You got to pay attention to, nature in order to create resources for your civilizations and in your community.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Let's see. I just seen so. Okay, yeah. Let me ask this one. Is the bee symbolic of Big Mama energy and the golden elixir symbolic of Mama's breast milk?
I guess you can say that. Pretty much. Yeah, that's a very powerful analogy. And I would say, like I said, the gold elixir is basically, the activation of the magnum opus by going from human to God. And you can only do that by raising up, the Kundalini energy. The Kundalini is a representation of the gold elixir, which is the honey. So that, like I said, it's an extraction process.
Mm-hmm.
So Big Mama, like I said, the 13 represents the matriarch. So, and the gold elixir is equated to the honey. So there's a conjunction there.
Mm-hmm. Somebody said might be a drone from the queen bee.
You never know.
I like that word, Buzzy. Buzzy said, "Nah, that's Big Mama's drone. The queen bee's drone. Queen bee sent that motherfucker out there. Like, let me see. Tell me what's going on." Oh man. Okay. Who are the bee's closest cosmic relatives?
Melanated people. I would say the melanated people. The melanated people on planet Earth. Because like I said, going from lead to gold, it can only be activated by the quantum engine, which is, the heart chakra that works in tandem with the crown chakra. You got to have balanced energies in order to, get that, certain spiritual abilities and intelligence.
Right. Okay. Let's keep this thing going. This is I'm really enjoying this conversation tonight. Okay. Is the bee business something you can see growing in the Black community?
I can see that. See that. But it's one of those things where, we have to tap right back into nature because, like I said, there's not a lot of female trees. There's 98% of the trees that you see in America or just on planet Earth are actually, male trees because they put a lot of terminator seeds inside the soil to where they don't grow any type of produce. Because, like I said, the pollination is a protein, and that protein in itself is carried by a larvae extracted from the bees. So we have to, tap into the ecological systems of nature if we want to get into that energy of, growing a business around that.
Yeah. Somebody said, remember the bees in the movie Jupiter Ascending surrounded the queen because of her frequency. I don't remember that, and I seen that movie.
Yeah, I remember that because I told you, the Ethiopian king, his name was Lalibela. It means that the bees recognize his sovereignty. That's because from the inception of birth, he was surrounded around a lot of bees, which gave him the ability to have reign. That's what made him chosen to be a leader, of the future nation before he died and things of that nature.
Damn. Ain't that something, y'all? Imagine how we pick presidents and people pick their kings. Imagine living in a society where the bees pick who's king or queen, depending on who they're standing next to or swarming around. That'll be a fire process to decide who's going to rule over the land.
And we need to tap right back into that because if nature chooses your ass, that means that you fit for the job. Yeah. Because the ecology of animals and ants and plants and things of that nature, they're connected to the Most High, just like children.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I said, everything in nature, everything from the inception of birth, when you're talking about babies, they have a quantum entanglement processing system. They can see the vibration of humans on the planet.
All right. Yeah, this is good, y'all. Let's keep this thing going. But I got to see that movie again anyway, y'all. Thanks for bringing it up. All All right, BDELL, do you think, what does it say? Do you think some animals that are going extinct would reemerge as the consciousness rises, could they mutate off of the DNA and come again?
I would say it depends. It depends. It depends on, like I said, a lot of the species that they have, hidden, or some of the ones that actually died off, that actually frozen inside Antarctica, because Antarctica is basically a frozen library. So over the course of time, our consciousness in itself has the ability to manipulate physical matter. So the consciousness itself is going to create liquidation in sedimentary rock formations, and it's going to unravel the DNA within the planet Earth and unravel our DNA at the same time. So a lot of these animals that you're going to be seeing is going to be because of the awakening process. It's going to heat up the planet. That's why I said, it was very metaphysical for us to be in Atlanta, because, like I said, it's on the third parallel. And anytime that you have a certain energy close to a dark ley line, it creates portals. And that portals is streaming down energy from the magnetic field. So this is kind of like when you look at the cyclicism of the Aquarian symbol. It's a picture of water that's streaming down. It's pouring down intelligence. And intelligence in itself is going to manipulate, the Metatronic overlay.
Indeed. Yeah, somebody said a dragonfly landed on the guy and was chilling on him for like 10 minutes. I have video of it. Can you send me that? I don't know if you exaggerating, or I know a lot of people talk and say they got videos of bees. Can you send it to me? If you got videos, can you send me the videos? Anybody who has footage of activities with bees, dragonflies, landing on them, swarming on them, can you? I just posted my email. Can you please email it to me? I would love to see it. All right. Like I said, I don't know, I want to see just exactly what y'all talking about.
Yeah, you don't want to over sensationalize.
Yeah. I know people like 10 minutes. That's a long time.
Right.
That's a long time. So I want to see the video of that. I want to see this video. All right.
I doubt it because the energy was really high.
Yeah.
I've never experienced something like that. And like I said, the day before, you had a meteorite that hit Blacksville on Dr. York's birthday. All that stuff is not a coincidence.
This is why I'm telling y'all, it's important for us, and that's why I made it. If y'all notice, when I first came to Georgia, I didn't do any events the first year. I didn't do any events. King Simon did some events. Red and Blue might have done some. I didn't do any events. I was just, getting acclimated to Georgia. But I realized the importance of us meeting up in person and creating that energy field, that collective energy field. And what we did on Stone Mountain, you can't duplicate that on the internet, family, on YouTube. So this is why it's important. And this is also why I decided to do a free event. Like I said, it's not easy. If I ask BDELL to come to Atlanta and I'm paying him to speak, I book him, I pay for his flight, I pay for all of that, and in return I sell tickets, boom, boom, boom. But for Stone Mountain hike, these speakers are paying their own way because there's no money made. There's no money made at the door. There is no door. It's free admission. So to get the speakers to come out here for free, knowing how busy everybody is, everybody got families and businesses and this and that. This was the opportunity of a lifetime to see all these speakers free of charge in nature. Like, this was the opportunity of a lifetime, y'all. And we did it. And it was one of the top 5 experiences of my whole entire life. And the energy is something that I'm gonna remember when I'm 70. This is what life is about. Experiences. When I'm 70 years old, I'm gonna think it's a damn 2025. I organized a Stone Mountain retreat, and everybody came out. We was out there 5 in the morning. Like, this is what life is about, y'all. You know what I'm saying? So make sure y'all take these meetups that we promote serious. Whether you have to pay for them or not, it's an investment in your future. And shout out to everybody who there was a lot of travel difficulties because of the meteor. So shout out to everybody who stayed in the airport for 24 hours. Cambada was at the airport for 36 hours. Mm-hmm. So shout out to everybody who was willing to go through whatever they had to go through just to make it there, because it was definitely well worth it. All right.
And we got to keep it going. By the time I'm 40, I want it to, be at least 1 million people there, at least do it. You know what I'm saying? Like we got to keep this whole thing going because the momentum in itself, we got to create, this convergence of the golden age because we're going to be the blueprint for it. Because like I said, a lot of people are seeking answers because you've seen the collapse of the system. You've seen the collapse of the movie industry, the music industry. All these industries is collapsing, and a lot of people don't know where to go when it comes to information. So that's why I said we got to come amongst each other. We got to keep this whole thing going to where it can be, next time we do it, it's about 5,000 people, 10,000. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed. Somebody said, Rich, we going to Mount Shasta before Kemet. I'm not sure. I might.
That'd be crazy.
I'm gonna tell you what's dope about Kemet. So I just made an agreement. Well, not an official agreement, but we gonna make it happen. There was a sister that was there named America Sutton, and she does music. She's a songwriter in the industry. She has a band called Love Is Medicine, and she's awesome. And her and her band, I'm gonna arrange for her and her band to come to Kemet because I told you Kemet is gonna be heavily. Whatever happened on Stone Mountain, Kemet is going to be 100 times better. I promise you. I personally promise everybody. And I should have the link. I don't even have the link. I forgot where I put it at. But I got to start promoting it because if we don't hurry up and sell tickets, then the people who are booking it for us are going to cancel it. So
I got an idea about the Mount Shasta thing because Mount Shasta is actually the root chakra of planet Earth. It sits on the demarcation line of Oregon and Northern California. And if you're going to have a retreat there, everybody, I say maybe about 3 months before you go, you should do no type of, spilling your sexual fluids. Like I said, how you know that the vibration of you not over spilling your cup of Hermes is not going to activate something in that landmass. Just imagine if everybody, practice abstinence of sex, and then go to that retreat. Ain't no telling what you're going to activate in that geographical landmass. You might cause the pole shift right there.
Hey, you said the cup of Hermes. Oh shit, that's fire. Yeah. But yeah, family, it's I'm gonna think about it and we'll see. We'll see what's going on. Yeah, Blue Pill is my Mount Shasta Connect. He's been going there since I think 2017, at least from what I know, from 2017. Mm-hmm. So is my daughter all right? Why is she crying like that? All right, let's get to another question. We're gonna do about 3 more.
Okay.
Then we're gonna get out of here. I don't want to keep BDEL too long. Somebody said came from Kemet to Stone Mountain, and I gotta say Stone Mountain was aligned with Kemet energy. Yes. That's dope.
That's a fact.
That's dope. Yeah, that is definitely dope to know. Hold on, I got it. All right. Let me see. Yeah, let's get to another question. See a lot of comments. Somebody said, BDEL, are you going to 2027 Egypt with Brother Rich?
Yes, sir. I will be there.
Yes, BDEL will be there. I don't know. BDEL one of the first individuals I had to talk to about it. It's gonna be. Listen, like I said, and I'm not trying to compare this tour to any other tour that takes place at Kemet, but I will say that this one is a special one. Number one, the energy that's going there. The energy that's going there is a different. This metaphysical channel. This is like a new thing for people to see a black metaphysical channel. Like usually when you go to the metaphysical channels, it's like white channels, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm glad that community is up on it, but you don't see a lot of black metaphysical channels where all the speakers could congregate and come to the same place. So this is a unique energy. And we represent that, like that. I don't want to say hood, but we come from all aspects of life. We from all over, and it's just special. And it's going to be one of the most best experiences of your life. I guarantee it. Billy has access to parts of Kemet that nobody else has. He has a lot of connections out there. that nobody else has that does tours. So we're gonna see stuff that no other tours are able to offer. So, like I said, family, there's payment plans, and well, I'll be sharing the link. I'll probably start sharing the link tomorrow. I think Blue Pill's going to be on tomorrow night, so I'll probably start sharing the link tomorrow. But like I said, this is limited because it's such a big trip, and I advise everybody to get their tickets as soon as possible. I just keep this thing.
Said something about me going on a plane. Yeah, it's a one in a lifetime, type of event. So, like I said, everything that you want is on the other side of fear. So, I got to get through the fear if I want to get to that level as far as like going on that trip. Everybody don't get to go to Kemet and study the hieroglyphics and stuff.
Indeed. Indeed. They said that when they was putting up the hieroglyphs, they put it up not to rebuild civilization, but they put it up because they knew one day the gods will return. And the name of the trip is the name of it is Return of the Gods. And I'm gonna have the merch for everybody. Everybody who signs up is going to get merch, and our merch is Return of the Gods. And I truly believe that in my heart. I know I've been there before. I know I've been there. I know I've been there. I know I've been on this land. I know I've been on both parts of the globe. But I look forward to returning back over there. And I know the hieroglyphs are going to be activated, especially with that music from America Sutton and everybody else. And Cam Botter's going to be out there with the what's that song, King of the Jungle, man, with the music. We got the technology to activate that stuff out there. Mm-hmm. We got the technology, y'all. Yes. We got it. And no, you don't have to get vaccinated to go to Kemet. A lot of people ask me that. No, you don't.
And then on top of that, the music in itself is what creates portals.
Exactly.
Because music is actually electromagnetism. It's frozen geometry.
Yeah.
So you can manipulate the space-time continuum just with the vibration and the octave of certain instruments. There's a reason why you see the word mental inside the word instrument for a reason. Instrumental.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, you can open up portals with, certain frequencies when it comes to music. So salute to y'all, bringing that energy, to Kemet.
Indeed. Yeah, it's going to be a movie, y'all. It's definitely going to be a movie.
In Atlantis.
Ooh.
Yes.
Whose book is that?
It's by Dr. Daniel and Barbara Coldren.
Fire.
Yeah. Fire. He even talks about the pole shift not only subjected to the planet, it talks about the pole shift that is activated by the Merkaba, which is inside the body. Human consciousness has the ability to create the pole shift. So it'll flip right before it happens. It's gonna feel an energetic shift.
Oh, that's fire.
So it goes into all types of stuff like that.
Yeah. I gotta get that one. That looked like a real good one.
Yeah.
I guess with that being said, man, what a good conversation tonight. Not only with BDELL, but with the family. Y'all had some great questions at the end. Once again, thank everybody who came out.
Appreciate it.
Thank you to everybody who came out. Thank you. I appreciate it. It was we made history together. That's what is important. We made history together, family, and let's continue to make history together. It was peaceful. It was full of love. Children, the ladies, the brothers, full of love. BDELL, leave all your contact information, anything you got coming up. Let the people know how to get in touch with you, my brother.
You can contact me at Instagram, BDELL1014, BDELL1014, and I'm on YouTube at BDELL1014, and I'm on Facebook. You can contact me at Brydell Rice Bay. Those are all my, and my TikTok is BDELL1014. I don't care for TikTok too much. So, but those are all my, social media outlets.
Indeed. Somebody said, is Rod Hayes coming? I doubt it. Rod Hayes, he has this thing about traveling. He talks about it, and he's not into traveling, especially with big groups. So Rod Hayes he's pretty much local where he's at. Maybe he'll change his mind in a little while.
We're gonna get him out one day.
Yeah. Actually, fun fact, Rod Hayes was supposed to be at Stone Mountain, and he wasn't. I guess I could say it now because it's over with. But fun fact, he was scheduled to be there at Stone Mountain, but tragedy happened in his personal with his family, and something happened. I'm not gonna say exactly what, but yeah, he had a something that happened with his family, so he had to tend to that. But fun fact, Rod Hayes was it would have brought the man Stone Mountain would have exploded.
It would have been crazy.
That was gonna be that was gonna be the big surprise for y'all. But you know, he had it's gonna be that would be crazy.
The whole damn crystal probably would have exploded.
Yeah, but yeah, we gonna get Rod to come out. I won't say when. It'll be a surprise, you know. But if you know your heart is in the right place, you'll meet him when you're meant to meet him. You know what I'm saying? My shout out to the brother Rod Hayes. But hey, with that being said, BDELL, my brother, thank you once again. Always a pleasure. Like I told the brother this on the mountain. And during the weekend, I was like, yo, he's one of the sharpest young brothers out there holding down this information. And I want the brother, I want to stress to you in front of the family that this thing is a marathon, BDELL. It's not a sprint. It's not a 1, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year thing. It's a marathon. I want to see you in this thing 30 years from now. You know what I'm saying? I want to see you still doing your thing. And even if you're doing other things, but still teaching the people in some form, because you're definitely a gem in our community. So keep up the good work, my brother. Always a pleasure working with you on these YouTube interviews. And with that being said, family, I will see y'all tomorrow. I think Blue Pill will be on. All right. Peace and blessings. Peace. What you said, B?
I was saying salute to the guy, Blue Pill. Yeah,
Yo,
Blue on my head when I was out there. You know,
Blue Pill say your name is B, like bees, like the bees. Your name is BDELL now. That was word. You represent the B, and you got her the yellow today too, man.
Salute to Bobby Hemmett.
Shout out to the brother Bobby,
yeah.
Shout out to Red Pill with that merch. That's the brother Red Pill's merch. Shout out to Red Pill.
Salute to Red. And really, that was my first workshop. He threw me to the wolves with that.
Oh man!
And I was not prepared because I had
the work that you do.
Well, I consider myself as an end times eschatologist and a spiritual revolutionary. That way, I'm able to combine the spirituality mixed in with the eschatological timelines that's taking place when you're talking about modern day events and how it lines up to prophecy.
I sure. No, that's what's up. Okay. And then, so like, how did you get first exposed to the work? Because clearly you have done a lot of research and you've also presented a lot of information. So like, what was your first exposure to, you know, like consciousness or studying, you know, esoteric wisdom and you know, knowledge?
Well, the inception of it, my mom, she was a part of the Nubian Nation with the Ansar Allah community. So I was already tapped in with the great majority of Dr. York's publications. And then over the course of time, I became a part of, the More Science Temple, where I got my edification from. And, unfortunately, my grand sheik, he passed away. So I'm not a part of any temple right now. And the only temple that I was a part of was the only one that we had in Southern Indiana. So as far as that, like the inception of it started with Dr. Malachi York's work, and then it transitioned into more science. But when you look at the whole multitude of the spiritual work in itself and the dynamics of it, they pretty much work in conjunction. It's pretty much one and the same, because Dr. York, he was propagating, sovereignty, just like, the Prophet Noble Ali was.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No, that's what's up. Yeah, no, I love it. And I saw it like from the very beginning. I think the first one, I can't even remember which one of the ones that kind of came across my timeline, but whichever one it was, I tapped into him like, yo, bro, it's dope. Like, he definitely knows his stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, he really tapped in. And so I knew immediately you had to have a background that's pretty much similar to like what you know what I'm saying, what you pretty much broke down for us. So with that, let's just dive in, man, because we had some really, I feel like enlightening, conversations off here where I got to kind of really, see who you are and what you're about and what you stand for. And I feel like there's a lot of dope alignment with that. But when it comes to where we are right now on May 25th, 2025, where does the atmosphere in which we're in right now, from the physical aspects as well as the universal, I should say, the astrological aspects, how does that tie in to some of the chain of events that we're seeing unfold right before our very eyes, especially when we talk about things in regards to like the solar flares that we just had, that just came the other day? Like, how does all this tie into where we are right now?
Well, the solar flares that you see, these coronal mass ejections is operating at a gamma radiation, which manipulates the electrical grid node of the planet. So this is why you see the rise of a technocrat system, but it's only going to have a temporal power over it, because we all know that, you know, anything that's built on imperialism or anything that's built on colonization doesn't have no type of sustainability as far as their civilization. So when you've seen these coronal mass ejections coming in, that is what they call the ancestors coming back, right? And it's revitalizing and waking up, you know, the dynamics and the minerals and the plasmoids and everything. It's basically waking up planet Earth. So we're going through a shifting process, which is based on a reset. So this is all connected to the precessional circle of the equinox, which is what they call the cosmic clock, because the cosmic clock coincides with the financial debt clock system that's a part of their corporations. So this is also in connection with the doomsday clock as well. So everything that they do operates in cycles by way of those clock systems. So this is why you're having a reset in the political infrastructure. This is why you're having a reset in the entertainment industry, the music industry, movie industry. All the industries are starting to unfold right now. So this, you know, it's all based on judgment as well. So it's a form of prophecy that's taking place.
Oh yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, that's real, and I see it too, and it's something that we've spoke about, you know, a lot of times on this channel in regards to the cycles. You know, with the 20, some would say 25, some would say 24, some would say 26,000 year. You know, the 6,000 year cycles that we're kind of into, right? Yeah. So we just came out of, what was it, the Piscean age, right? And we're going into the Aquarian age, right? So how does that tie into, when we talk about these 6,000 year cycles and how significant they are in regards to what's taking place on the planet? How does that tie into some of what you just shared with us about the solar flares, as well as the fall of all these systems, whether it's the religion, the dollar, the military, you know, et cetera? Like, how does all that tie into what we're seeing with the numerical 6,000 year cycle?
So when you look at the numerical 6,000 year cycle, it's the personification of the 24,000 year purification period. So it operates on 4 different cycles. You got a sun cycle, a moon cycle, and a sun cycle. So now we're at the apex of solar cycle 25, because we're in solar cycle. We're in the last sun cycle. So that means it has to be facilitated by a matriarch, which is galvanized by the people, which is a republic. So that means that the divine feminine energy is bringing balance right back to the planet. Because when you're talking about the end of the world, you're really talking about the end of an age. And the end of an age was the clay age of the 6,000 years that the so-called Shaitan, the devil, had over the planet. So now we're transitioning into the golden age, which is the Aquarian age, that is facilitated by the sun cycle. So now you got these coronal mass ejections hitting the planet, and they doing all type of, you know, genetic manipulation, and they're basically trying to, you know, build all these underground bunker systems, because their genetical format doesn't have the G-force to withstand the UV radiation light spectrum that's coming from the cosmos. So this is why they want to amplify a technocrat system with Neuralink, right? Because they don't have the neuromelanin to activate that Christ consciousness that takes them, you know, outside of, you know, the firmament and all these dimensional planes of what we call the demiurge, or what we call in the esoterics the Metatronic overlay, which is the dualistic paradox.
Yeah, that's deep. That's real. I love that, because you tapped into something that I was going to go into anyways. But when you talk about this Neuralink, right, and we talk about melanin, we was just talking about that on one of the last live streams I had. I think last Saturday I was talking about with like melanin and the difference between melanin, neuromelanin, and then also going all the way back to Kemet when you saw that Asar was green, like his skin was green. Yes. You know what I mean? Naturally, when you go to the purest form of melanin, it actually is green, and that's why you see it on the temple walls in Kemet. So can you kind of break down how the neuromelanin is one aspect, regular melanin is another, but then why those people who are creating Neuralink and all these other virtual reality existences, or whatever you want to call it, can you kind of tie into how that matters to what's happening right now on the planet, especially when you talk about the solar flares and how it's manipulating the environment? Yes.
Well, these solar flares, they create melanocytes, which are basically intelligence molecules. So it works in tandem with the brain and central nervous system melanin. And that melanin has the ability to activate the Christ body in the crystalline state, to where you go from, you know, a form of transduction to activate the neuroendocrine transducers. So this is what we call the piezoelectrical crystals in the brain that activates the Merkaba light ship, which is the biological suit to escape the firmament. But you got to have a certain genetical format, and you have to have a certain neurological format. Now, when you're talking about the Canaanite, the cursed seed in the book of Leviticus, when they breaking down their genetic format, when you're talking about the cursed ones with leprosy, the ones that was cursed with leprosy, that leprosy is basically a vampiric disease, right? Because like I said, the UV radiation light spectrum doesn't harmonize with their genetics, the epidermis layer of their skin. So the epidermis layer of the skin, see, when it comes to sunburns or sun cancer or whatever, all these other things, and the surface level is not getting cooked. It's the underlayer of the surface because they have eukaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells is spliced DNA. So that means that it's basically a form of a genetic mutation, which ties our way back when the European or the Canaanite that was created in 4086 BC on the island of Patmos, right? And they came out of those cave systems because, like I said, Europe it's a desolate land. There's no type of sun that comes to that geographical area, right? Mm-hmm. So this is why the dogs, they used to lick the leprosy sores of the European. So this is where you get the term, a man is a dog's best friend, right? Mm-hmm. So it was one of those things like the Canaanite was basically the foot soldier for the Canaan was the foot soldier for the Canaanite. Mm. They also have the same genetic format as well when you're talking about spliced DNA. Mm. So now we're going back into the sun cycle. So solar cycle 25 is, it activates, certain, things on the planet, such as like, planetary shifts, volcano eruptions, earthquakes. But, that also coincides with our genetic format as well. Since we're connected to the planet, we're getting those same planetary upgrades, except the Canaanite that was cursed with leprosy.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, we on our way in, family. We on our way in. So now when it comes to what we're seeing with the kind of changing of the guard, somebody in the chat said it, this power is shifting, the shift of power. I'm not sure who it was, but yeah, that's real. It's really happening. When it comes to all of this, can you kind of share, because I've been mentioning about the Black Pope for a long time on the channel before all this stuff took place. And so I was telling you, when we spoke the other day, how excited I was to see the work that you did on the presentation you did about the Black nobility, because I was like, shoot, that work already been done. I could just send people the link to that when I ain't even got to do that video because my bro already did it. But can you kind of break down how deep this goes when we talk about this thing called religion, and then we talk about those who control and manipulate this whole entire infrastructure? We're talking about the Vatican, and then we're talking about people behind the scenes who are the ones pulling the strings like a puppet. Can you kind of tie in or tap in for the tribe who might not be familiar with your work or might not know anything about the Black nobility? Can you kind of tie into how all that, kind of plays a role into what we're seeing as this whole thing shifts and unfolds?
Okay. Well, the Black nobility is the black hand, and the black hand is the hidden hand, and the hidden hand is the one who controls the European on the surface. So you have two different diametrical differences of bloodlines on the planet, which ties all the way back into ancient Sumeria when you're talking about Enki and Enlil. Enki is the ones that's connected to Earth, because when you break down the etymology of the word Enki, it means Lord of Earth. So that means that the Earthborn, who are the indigenous people of America, are connected to that bloodline. Then you got the seeds of Enlil. En means Lord, Lil means sky, Lord of the sky, which is acclimated to Satan being the prince of air. So Enlil has a faction of bloodline that he created to overthrow the seeds of Enki when you're talking about the cursed ones for 6,000 years. So now we're seeing a transition of power. So we went from a patriarchal form of colonization that created patrilineal systems within their corporations. And now you're going back into a matriarchal energy, which is matrilineal for the indigenous people, to where the man rules through the woman, to where they have balance. So now when you're talking about as far as the transitional process, I lost my train of thought. What was the other part of the question?
It was pretty much just breaking down how there's a secret, I guess, handler.
I got it now.
Yeah.
The Black nobility. You also have Colochians. Colochians are some of the first Europeans or the first Canaanites that was in the Caucasus Mountains. So when you go all the way back to that bloodline, those are the ones that's connected to the Ashkenazi Jew over in the Ukraine that works with the libertarian aspect when we're talking about the Democrats, right? So this ties all the way back into the socio-political aspect of civics, because the church and the state is not separate. So this is why they created religious papacy with Pope Alexander VI and Pope Nicholas. And then that's when they also implemented the Inquisition with Queen Isabella in 1468. So the religious papacy, this is why I said you got to step away from the religion, because the religion is what they use to put jurisdiction over you, right? So the religion, like I said, you get to the etymon of the word, the linguistics or whatever. The word Christian translates to the word black in the Strong Concordance. So that's why I was telling, the brother last night, words are spells. So it's really deep that we got to dissect these words to see the underlying message of what's taking place. But going back to what I was saying, the black nobility created religious papacy for the Europeans to overthrow the ones that's connected to America. That's what that was basically used for. So that's why when you look at some of these neoclassical arts, you can see the European being a form of a black man coming over to make deals with the indigenous people over in America. So that means, like I said, you got two different bloodlines. So the black conquistadors, a great majority of them are part of the faction of Enlil, right? So so that's the thing, though. Everybody, just because we all look the same doesn't mean that we come from the same bloodline. Because if that was the case, we wouldn't have, different blood types, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's real, too, because, when you speak on that, it's like I could tell somebody that was born here, in this country of America or this corporation of America versus somebody who might have been born in Africa or somebody who was born in the islands or somebody who was born, what I mean? Just by I could tell by the facial structure, what I mean? It's just so many different features that I could tell, that they're from a different place, or at least their place of origin, what I mean? Although we all are melanated. And so it's something that it goes deep when you talk about how deep it is when you go all the way back, through the bloodlines. When you talk about Enki and Enlil, when you're talking about these beings, or you want to talk, even if you bring into the picture Anu, what I'm saying? Like, how does all this tie into the ancients when we talk about this thing called the Anunnaki?
Well, when you're talking about the Anunnaki, when you break down the etymology, it means those sent by Anu to Ki. Ki means Kai. Kai means planet Earth. So that means that we're basically baby Masons because we.
My bad.
Huh?
I didn't mean to cut you off. Can you say that again? Because I'm sure some people might have wanted to hear that but couldn't make it out only because. The way you broke it down, though.
Yeah, Anunnaki. When you look at the word, it means those sent by Anu to Ki. Ki means Kai, and Kai means planet Earth. So when you look at a Freemasonic symbol, it has the letter G in there. But the G is the prefix of the word Geo. Geo means QI in the esoterics, which equates to Ki, which is planet Kai. So that's why I said that Enki, E-N-K-I, is basically the ones that come from the Lord of Earth. So that means it's our birthright to have dominion over the planet. That's why in the Moorish Science Temple, when you wear the fez, the tassel is what connects you to the land. Right? Because your nationality comes from the word nativity. Nativity is birthright. Your naval cord that belongs to you, that ties you back to the land, basically.
Yeah. No, I love it. Excuse me. And now there is, because I think a lot of people get misconstrued in regards to the different types of Moors, because you have the Moors who wear the fez, and then you have, what I mean? So can you kind of break down for that, the difference? Because some people, if they hear about the black nobility, for example, and they don't know anything else, they're going to think that all Moors, are terrible. But then if you have people like yourself who's very knowledgeable, or who's even born and raised in that culture, like it, because you was born and raised in it in regards to your path, so you can break it down and decipher to differentiate between the two of them. So can you kind of share like the differences between the ones who are, righteous and the ones who are considered to be the dirty ones? Okay.
Well, the ones, they have documentation in court. When you get an 1848 Supreme Court decision on June 6th, it says that the geographical landmass of America belongs to the title holder is the Moors who have emerged. The one that's spelt with two U's and the R and the S. Those are the ones that's connected to the 5 civilized tribes that was also connected to Atlantis and Lemuria and other, fifth dimensional civilizations. Now, the Blackamoor was being controlled by black nobility. That is basically the two diametrical differences. That's when the Blackamoor, they came over here with religious papacy and gave, the European the edification of maritime law and things of that nature. So that's really the difference between the two. The ones that's, propagating the system, that's trying to keep you connected to the corporation.
My bad. Go ahead, bro.
I was saying just by way of the religion, because the religion is what took us out of our sovereign capacity. It was the religion aspect of it.
Right. That's facts. And now, so when you talk about those who took us out of a path and took us, off of our path and our track, our journey before the 1492 era and all that stuff, can you kind of break down how this territory that we reside on right now is actually a corporation, and like how that corporation is tied to, the Vatican, or tied to London, or tied to, the District of Columbia, in that arm of what we're looking at with this three-headed monster type thing that we're looking at? Can you kind of break down how that all plays into the system and into, this whole construct that they're trying to rule by?
Okay. Well, you got the Uniform Commercial Code, Title 18, Section 3002, page 86, third paragraph. It says that the United States is a corporation. Now, what makes it a corporation is that the religious systems that's connected to the corporation under a patrilineal system, what they did was, like I said, they created religious papacy with I think it was the doctrine of discovery, and then that's when they also implemented the Inquisition during that time period. So the doctrine of discovery was implemented in 1493. So the religion aspect of it coincides with the church and the state not being separate, when it's actually, supposed to. It's against the law for the church and the state to be working in synergy like that, which is why they create their corporations. So then when you also look at the Vatican owns 170 billion acres of land internationally, where they built their churches, their schools, their banks, everything that's a part of their corporations on top of the matriarch. So it's what cultivated capitalism, which also created separatism and individualism amongst the household, because everything is built on capital now. Everything is about, a monetary system. So that's why everything that's connected to their systems of patriarchy was acclimated to the moon. Moon day, money, monarchy, monotheism. All these things is a moon energy, right? So that means that the moonfall, as you have the rise of consciousness by the sun, is, taking place. It's reversing the polarity of everything that was created by that faction of people. So, and as far as like the corporation, dismantling itself, an American Pope denotes the fact that, it's basically the end of the corporation. And the reason I say that is because the Vatican, it owns a great majority of, the stocks in BlackRock and things of that nature. So that also coincides with the fact that the Queen that just died, and she had the seal off Buckingham Palaces off the fence or whatever. So when you have the king and the queen, it's kind of like it's like a galactical chess game that's taking place. So the queen was gone first, but the game ain't over until the king falls, and that was the Pope, who was controlling all those factions. So you had the fall of the monetary system, the fall of the military, and then you have the fall of the church. So this is where you have the rise of the people to get, everything back to them, as far as, connected right back to Mother Nature.
Yeah, no, I love it. We had somebody, let me find this comment. This is an excellent comment right here. We got a lot of them, but this one stood out. So pretty much 23 Archer, 28, 23 Archer, 28. I believe they're asking in regards to like the Black nobility or the Dirty Moors, these low vibrational, evil beings. How do we get rid of them? What is the process that we see of like extermination of the parasites?
Well, everything in the universe moves on a logistical principle. So it's one of those things where the universe has to have a shifting power, where the meek shall inherit the earth. So it's nothing that you have to do physically. You just got to watch it, let it play out, and do your work. Stay in your own spiritual lane, because there's going to be a great separation on the planet, and it's going to be happen by way of a separation of consciousness. So that means that everybody's not going to be thinking at high vibrational frequencies. You're going to have some individuals that's pushing Luciferianism, pushing the religion, pushing everything that's connected to the hedonistic culture of Western civilization. So that's why I said that's where you're going to have a separation. They're going to separate, they're going to, eradicate themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Big Chief, Brother Rod Hayes, because we were talking about something similar to this last week. He was saying, like, especially with these solars, it's nuts how the whole the synchronism and like the alignment happened too. Because we was just talking about the solar flares and like how the level of consciousness on the planet is rising in the solar system, the different spheres that, what I'm saying, all play a role into what we're seeing right now. And I'll be damned if I think it was like either within the next day or within a couple of days is when we saw the breaking news about the big solar flare that was coming, right? And so, and you've been talking about it on your channel a lot too. You got several videos that dives into that. Now, can you break down in regards to how this energy is so powerful? I heard you speak about the black sun. How you pronounce it? Ophiuchus?
Yes. Yep.
Can you kind of break down like how this all this kind of ties in together with what we're seeing and what we're experiencing, at this time?
Well, when you seeing the spiritual sun, which is the fifth dimensional sun, they call it the star Polaris. It gives, it operates on fractions of light that powers the two celestial bodies within the simulation, which is the sun and the moon. And the sun and the moon operates off fractions of light, and it gives power to the black sun. So that's when you look at the Freemasonic symbol, it's basically doing the same thing. It's basically corresponding with the celestial alignments that's taking place that works in synergy with the black sun. So the black sun is the embodiment of dark matter energy. Dark matter energy is activated by way of the energies of carbon when you have these neutrinos that's hitting the planet. Neutrinos are basically Holy Ghost particles. Holy Ghost particles activates the planet. So those are the ones that's connected to the planet is the ones that's going to get that Christ consciousness, because Ophiuchus that corresponds with the black sun is a representation of Jesus walking on water.
Yes, sir. We're just getting warmed up, family. Look, we ain't even took the warm-ups off. We just made it to the gym, just kind of jogging, a little slow jog around the arena. but yeah, we about to get ready to lace them up and get ready to have the tip off because we about to go. I was just talking about neutrinos. I can't even remember which episode it was on, but I was talking to the tribe about neutrinos and how powerful they are, especially considering the particles that they are and how they can go through pretty much everything. You just said that they kind of have a similarity or a connectivity to like Christ consciousness. Now, when you're talking about Christ consciousness, you're talking about the black sun, you're talking about Ophiuchus, you're talking about all these different energies and these stars and all this powerful energy sources, right? How does all of that line up with you talk about the star Polaris? There was a scene that I remember seeing in one of your videos where you showed a clip where there was something in London, I want to say, and it was like a astrological star that looked similar to the Yami signal that was in the sky. And you broke down, like you shared the video and you kind of broke down how that meant to the returning to, I forgot what it was, how you broke it down, but can you kind of share the significance of that visitation, or not that visitation, but that, I would say, sighting, and how that plays into exactly what you're breaking down when you're talking about the black sun, neutrinos, all this,
Are you saying like, are you talking about when I was talking about going back into the galactic center?
That's what it was, yeah. And then you saw the video where I think it was in London or somewhere where they had because the galactic center is the epitome of the Milky Way star constellation. When you look at the sigil of the Milky Way star constellation, it looks like a swastika. The swastika is also the embodiment of the black sun. So that's why that was basically the connection between the two by way of the symbolism. Got you. Yeah. Now, when you talk about the black sun, is that sun the same as the sun that's in the inner Earth, or is that another sun that's in our solar system, like in our vicinity, that we don't necessarily see, or do we actually have the ability to see this black sun? Like, where is this black sun located?
I think this black sun I call it the black chakra. So the black chakra is actually, the activation of the neuromelanin. As you amalgamate, this is where you're talking about the whole galvanization of the 144,000. I think that energy alone is what activates the black sun, which is actually. I think it's more symbolic and metaphorical than actually physical.
I got you.
Really, all you talking about is dark matter energy. That's all. Just like when you watch the movie Lucy, when she rose up in consciousness so much, she didn't need a physical body. She turned into dark matter energy. She turned into black, brain and central nervous system melanin. Dark matter.
Now, is the dark matter energy different from ether, or are they both kind of one and the same? Or what would your take be on ether and black matter energy?
Well, it kind of from my opinion, I think they work in conjunction because when you look at the sigil of Tahuti, right, it's showing you a tetrahedron. A tetrahedron is also the embodiment of a dodecahedron. The dodecahedron is the fifth element, and the fifth element is the quintessential alchemical element. So that embodies everything in nature, which is basically us. So that's connected. When you look at the word Orisha, Ori Ashe, Orisha, which means a ruler of the ethers, masters of the ethers, right? That's the four basic elements: earth, air, water, fire. But it embodies everything. The only thing that embodies everything is the ether, and that's us. We're connected to nature.
Yeah, so I love it.
Being able to, withstand the G forces of nature all at once.
I love it. And so when we talk about the 144,000, we talk about the Christ body and this Christ consciousness, right? How does all of that kind of align with the rise of the Black Messiah, or I should say the Black consciousness in the collective? You know what I mean? Because we see Brother Ibrahim Traore doing what he's doing over there. We see a lot of brothers over here, on our side, freedom fighters are standing in the front line doing the work here, and we're seeing a lot of different places rise up in support of what's going on, with Brother Traore over there, as well as the alignments that he's making, with other superpowers. How does all of this kind of tie into where we see the world shifting with everybody, almost taking a stance against and in opposition of Western colonialism or the Western hemisphere so-called powers that be?
See, if you notice, over in the Western world, we're more, we like to propagate our revolutionary aspects, through word of mouth, speaking against the system. While when you get to the Eastern hemisphere, they're more proactive. They actually do what, what they follow and teach or whatever. So the shift is going to take place is when you're going to have the waters from the East collaborate with the waters from the West. This is an occultic symbolism, meaning that it's basically a shift in power. So this is where you're going to see the ones that was talking the talk on to start walking the walk. So it's going to be one of those things where you're going to build sustainable, land developments and coming together, galvanizing our resources. But the inception of that whole thing is that it can only be done when you have some type of calamity on the planet. That's the only thing that's going to bring everybody together.
Yeah.
Because America is under judgment. America's under judgment. Those was the three solar eclipses that took place from 2017, 2023, and 2024. Those three solar eclipses, they put an ancient Hebrew tab over the planet, or just over the geographical landmass of America. So that is basically a representation of Alpha and Omega, which is creation and destruction. And within that destruction, that's going to bring us all together. So that's how I see it. That's just, from my, that's my logical assertion on that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but you laying a lot of it down on your channel though, and try, for those who don't know Brother's work, man, check out his channel, BDELL1014 on YouTube. It's a powerful channel. My boy doing great work, and I love it. I check out, whenever I can. I'm tapped in because I already know you're gonna drop some dope knowledge, but also you're gonna have receipts to back it up, and that's the part that I love, in regards to the thorough research you do, for the presentations that you put on your channel. So when it comes to that, right, you mentioned, the Christ consciousness, and you mentioned the beings, that went back into antiquity, like how they all kind of tie into some of the ancient civilizations of Lemuria and Atlantis. Can you kind of share the significance of the ancients and how I feel like we're headed back into a time kind of like what was, at the pinnacle of the height of civilizations, when we had the ancients, ruling like of Lemuria and Atlantis. Can you kind of break down how those civilizations play a role in what we're seeing now? Because due to like my personal research, I've seen like the planet always goes in cycles to where it goes to the heights of, of technology and information and all that. And catastrophe, whether it's a great flood, whether, so many different things that happen. Can you kind of break down the ancients and how the significance of the ancients and the ancient civilizations that we all, study or we all marvel under or over, how that kind of ties into what we're seeing now in real time here in 2025?
All right. Before I get started, a good movie. If those who are, if you're into anime or whatever, if you watch this cartoon that's on YouTube, it's called The Law of the Sun. It breaks down everything you just said. It shows you the transitional shifts when you had civilization, operate at an abundant level. Fifth dimensional civilizations where everybody had, one world, type of knowledge, but it wasn't based on hedonistic practices. It was based on something that was basically evolutionary to get to the next, states of ascension. So you had the fall of Atlantis, then, you had the fall of, then you had the continental drift, you had Pangea, then you had ancient Kemet, you had the fall of Tartaria. What happens is that when the system gets to the apex of the seculum of a cycle, when it gets to a certain point, like, for instance, everything is getting worse. It's, to the point where they have to propagate inversion and giving you the illusion of progressiveness. Like they try to say that a man can go to a woman's bathroom if he dresses like and identify as such. So the illusion of progressiveness that's operated by way of inversion denotes the fact that the system has to go through a reset. The food is getting worse. The music is getting worse. TV seems kind of fake now. Don't nobody really indulge in anything that was connected to the external world now. This is why you see the rise of creators. They like, hey, I'm tired of this old world. It's time for us to start creating, because this is why you had the fall of Hollywood. Sports ain't even the same. Nothing hits the same. So everything has to go through a reset. Yep. So that's how you know that this is the end of the world, because it's the end of the Canaanite faction that is being controlled by black nobility archonic forces.
I love it. Yeah. And it's clear too. I mean, even like you said, even like with TV, like all the simple things that everybody used to be so riled up and geeked up about, it's like it don't even matter no more. But I feel like it's because the elevation and the rise of consciousness. You know what I mean? Like me personally, I stopped watching TV years ago. I'll say well over 10 plus years ago, when I first started doing my work as a speaker or as a coach, consultant, whatever, speaking to people. Right. Yeah. That's when I stopped watching TV, because I'm like, why am I going to waste my time watching somebody else who's living their dream, getting compensated, getting paid to do whatever it is they doing, but I could be building my own, you know what I'm saying? And working, focusing on mine. If I'm going to be on there, at least I'm going to collect some coins while I'm on there. You know what I mean? Instead of being me watching somebody else living their dream and I'm just wasting time and I'm not doing anything, you know what I mean? To add value to myself, my family, my community, my culture, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where I love the fact where I'm seeing brothers who are rising, sisters who are rising, who are standing out and putting themselves in the forefront to teach, to empower, to enlighten, to uplift, our people. And that's one of the things, matter of fact, I wanted to get into before we got deep, but let me double back to that real quick. So somebody asked the question, let me pull it up real quick. Breakthrough 9 said, and I think we kind of tapped into a little bit of this, but if you don't mind sharing, like, what your opinion is in regards to the question of how can we raise our consciousness?
The best way to raise up your consciousness is to understand that balance is the key. Balance is the personification of equilibrium. Equilibrium is balance, which makes you God. So you got to be balanced mentally, and you also got to be balanced spiritually, right? So the best way to look at it is that, to understand is that anything that you cannot fast from, you're going to become a slave to it. So don't become a slave to anything that's three-dimensional. You have to use it as a catalyst to get to the next level. So you have to use these things as, portals to get to your, connect with your higher self. Fast from the food, alcohol, sex, and you transmutate that energy as an alchemical resource. So that's how you connect with source. So just balance all your energies out. Go out in nature, read books. So you got to have balance.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so dope too. Because the other day I was out, and I think this was like after the first or second time we spoke, but I was out and about chilling by the water and getting some sun, and it was like a river that's in the city, right? It kind of rolls through the city, but where I was located at, it's a waterfront. You can chill, and just like chop it up or whatever. But what was cool is I actually caught a dolphin coming in and out of the stream, like coming up, like in and out of, in and out of the river. And I'm like, yo, I ain't never seen a dolphin that close to, proximity of where there's a lot of activity with people, driving the boats up and down the river, etc. And I also know dolphins have an extremely powerful, like, spiritual connection to us as a people. And then I also saw on one of the videos where you were talking about, like, those people who will go deep sea fishing, who are like catching mermaids and like eating them, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, can you kind of tie into the significance of how dolphins are really a part of, spirituality and connecting to, like, maybe whatever you want to go with it, but also why they were out there fishing for mermaids and mermen to eat them, to kind of absorb their consciousness or whatever it was that they were doing that for?
Because these things that come from the sea are actually extraterrestrial origin. When you're talking about the Dogon tribe in Mali, see the Dogon tribe in Mali, they had the constellations mapped out right before NASA was even created. So the Dogons, you know what I'm saying, they said that they, ascended from dolphins and things of that nature. So that's when you're talking about, the activation of a certain cerebral cortex that they have. They can use almost like, I'm not sure what percentage of the brain they can use, but I think it's something like 20%. I believe, I'm not sure, but they're very smart. So that's why they don't want, want them around, pregnant women and things of that nature, because they can do a form of horizontal gene transfer, which is where you transmute a certain vibration of consciousness and you put it inside of a different vessel. So that same thing can, take place when you're talking about the activation of certain genetics. Now, when you're talking about mermaids, now that's because they contain the elixir of immortality, their genetic format. Right. So if you eat, a mermaid or whatever, they create cell growth proliferation. It gives you immortalized cell lines. Right. So that's when the cells is able to replicate themselves on an infinite level, because when you understand the genetic format of a mermaid, it is really amalgamated by the stardust of the planet. Right. So it's basically carbon. It's a part of the building block of all civilization. So they can do any type of metamorphosis as far as like, for instance, if you look at a starfish, you take a starfish and you cut it in half, or you just chop it and kill it, another one will grow right back. The same thing can take place with a mermaid. The same thing can take place with a so-called black person's genetics if it's working in harmony with the energy of the sun and nature. Like literally do that. They even talked about that in that the story that the lady had put about. They said that the mermaid, her arm got cut off or her hand got cut off, and it grew right back.
Yeah.
Immortalized cell lines. That's why they needed Henrietta Lacks's, her genetics and her cells in order to coat spaceships and all this other stuff, right? That's melanin, that's carbon, right? So the great majority, that denotes the fact that the great majority of the mermaids are actually melanated or carbonated, right? So, but the owner who owns that sea company, he went to high school in my city. He owned it's called the Star Kiss tuna factory or something like that. It's one of those I'm talking about that make all the salmon. And
that's one of the biggest damn like tuna. I think I want to say they got to be one of the biggest ones in America, if not the world, for that matter.
You know what's crazy about this though? Every Democratic president, because I live like where I live at is like the third or second biggest city in Indiana. It's not that big, but I always wonder why every Democratic president came to visit my city. Like, I thought that was weird. You know what I'm saying? He had meetings with the richest family in Evansville called the Chancellors, and he owns the great majority of the coal companies, and the great majority of the coal companies, they own that space. They build spaceships. It's like 45 minutes away from where I live at. They build space ships or whatever. I got pictures. I went to the, property. I ain't posting them online. I ain't never talked about this online ever. So you getting, free information right here just off the top. So, but they definitely, where I live at is a significant place. There's a lot of abandoned buildings here, a lot of catacombs, a lot of underground tunnels. There's a multitude of things that lets me know that this city here is an import and export for, trafficking and things of that nature.
Oh yeah. Nah, and I'm glad you said that, because that brings me to another. Bless you. That brings me to another direction that I want to get into too, because there's certain guests that I know I can cover a lot of ground, cover a lot of space with in regards to going into some of these different topics. So I know I've shared on this show a few times, and guests have as well. But there's a lot of different portals, a lot of different stargates. There's a lot of significant pyramidal structures, in the Americas that a lot of people aren't really privy to or just don't know of. So, for example, can you kind of share what the significance is for some of these different very powerful or very historical or ancient monuments, such as the Cahokia Mounds, or such as the St. Louis Arch, or such as, the pyramid in Tayawasan, like all these different like structures and different places, and how they have a really significant purpose for, higher intelligence and like extraterrestrial activity.
Just like, I'm glad you say that, especially, St. Louis, where the Cahokia Mounds and all that, That's where the New Madrid fault line is at. That's where the black sun was at. That put that that solar eclipse that took place in 2024. The last one we had, the solar eclipse of judgment. That was right there at the apex of the New Madrid fault line, where you have Carbondale, Illinois, what they call Little Egypt, which is about 30 minutes away from St. Louis. Now, St. Louis is in alignment with the Big Dipper star constellation, along with other planetary alignments such as Detroit, Philadelphia, New York, Washington, D.C., Boston. But when you're talking about all these monolithic structures, they're pulling down certain kinetic energy. These are basically energy. They pull in like energy from the magnetosphere. But you have dark pockets of energy, such as like places like Stone Mountain, Georgia. That's on the 33rd parallel, right? Atlanta. Everything that was on the 33rd parallel was a powerful energy there. Then you had the same one in Dallas. Dallas is on the 33rd parallel, and that's where, you know, JFK got unalived, right? The same thing, like, then when you go all the way to Baghdad and over in Iraq, that's in alignment with the 33rd parallel, where they had all those portals. When they was talking about the activation of weapons of mass destruction, they wasn't over there for that. They was looking for portals. You see what I'm saying? So even when you look at national parks, so national parks is also in alignment with dark ley line energy grid systems as well. So there's a lot of portals inside national parks, which is why you see a lot of people come up missing. And this is where you see a lot of Yeti or Bigfoot.
Bigfoot, yep, Sasquatches, yeah.
It's Sasquatch is real because Bigfoot is actually real because during that time period, he was working with the indigenous people. Because they're not, anytime you see a Bigfoot walking like hunched over like that, that's a fake one. That's somebody wearing a costume. Anytime you see a Bigfoot walking upright, that's a real one because they're not savage and they're not low vibrational. They're high vibrational individuals. Right?
Very intelligent. Extremely intelligent.